Okay, good morning, folks. Here we are, right down here in Finsbury Park once again, and the topic of conversation today is about what's the name of the girls group? Right, and it's about cultural appropriation, right? And what do you believe that cultural appropriation is all about?
Me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Chazz.
You handed over the mic to me. Alright. Well, first of all, cultural appropriation is basically someone outside of culture that, how would you put it, maybe endearing a culture, but instead of showing appreciation, is somehow trying to take on that culture for themselves. So, basically, the story with the little mix headlines that's going on right now is basically one of the group members have got a new song out with Nicki Minaj. I can't remember her actual name now, and she's wearing beads in her hair. She's got quite a lot of tan on. She looks quite bright. She could pass for maybe mixed race girl, but not a black girl, obviously. So people are saying that she's basically blackfishing. So, she makes this headline about, she appreciates black culture and black music, and, that's all she's grown up on. And fair enough, I understand that. But my thing is this: when you've got someone who, like Ed Sheeran, also maybe a white artist that appreciates black culture or black music and has done collaborations with black artists and maybe genres, black cultural genre music, but when you look at Ed Sheeran, he looks like a white man, he acts like a white man, and he's very clearly a white man. But then you've got this girl on the other hand who's got a brown tan on, she's got her lips done, she's wearing beads in her hair, and people are saying it's cultural appropriation. And then on the other hand you have someone like Nicki Minaj, who is a black woman, and saying to her, no, what you're doing is okay, it's alright, anybody can be anything they want. Really? Today's just not a good day. Come sit down.
Right, yeah, and I remember when the chef Jamie Oliver did some, I think it was a mixture, and he called it, I don't know, some Jamaican rice or whatever. Do you remember that, mate? When that chef Jamie Oliver did some...
The rice and peas?
Yeah.
Right.
With the green beans?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I don't remember that, but I mean, Jamie Oliver was influenced by somebody else. And then because he was in the situation that he was...
Jerk fried rice?
Yeah, something like that,
It was a jerk fried rice, yeah.
But if you're influenced by somebody to your advantage, you should acknowledge the influence. I think it is absolutely really, why shouldn't you be influenced by everything and anything you can hopefully it is what you select. There's nothing wrong about that, that is perfectly natural. What is inappropriate is when you don't acknowledge the influence that has helped you.
I'll tell you what hurts, right, and what hurts the community, right? We go back to that Colston statue that's pulled down, right? And from that day, still now, right?
Yeah.
We, people of African heritage, from that Colston statue being him being a slave owner, slave master, etc. Not necessarily from that day, but what comes from that is that up to this point, we're never treated equally. You always hear the complaints about the level playing field. You always, with the Colston thing, you heard the thing about systemic, historical, and institutional, and we suffer that all the time. But what really hits us even hard is that the little culture that we have, which really we should exploit to our advantage, right?
Or celebrate possibly around.
Well, that is a good word. Would you ever see a European person running a Chinese restaurant? Would you ever see a European person running a Indian restaurant? you see a European wearing an Ethiopian restaurant?
It's almost a bit like the blackface as well, isn't it? It's a bit like the blackface. Do you remember the blackface? Apparently, some of these celebrations are still celebrated in European countries to this day. So basically, you know, it's culture appropriation is one thing. Like if you appreciate a culture and you're influenced by a culture, that's fine. But to be taking on parts of the culture, I think this is where a lot of black people get upset. You know, now you can look how you want and change whatever features you want and be who you want in the world. That's cool. But I feel like for a lot of black people, we feel like now it's fashionable to have our looks. It's fashionable to have big lips. It's fashionable for every culture to want a big bum. Like these are black women aesthetics or black people aesthetics, yeah? Now it's cool for you to just go and get lip fillers and get your bum done and have a big bum, or get your hair braided or wear a fake tan. But the thing is, like the struggles that black people go through for these things, and we've suffered from, you know, whether it's bullying, racism for having fuller lips, or you know your hairstyle's not appropriate in the workplace and stuff. But then these people, whether it be for fashion, whether it be for influence, whatever you want to call it, these people can take on all these images and be like a black girl for a day or for TV.
So you feel that that sort of diminishes?
Yeah, it does.
And it takes value from what you consider to be something that is essentially sort of
cultural,
yours.
Yeah, you know what, I feel like a lot of the time as well, they take on these cultural and not know where it comes from, what it means. So it's like fashion to them when it's not like that for us. This is something like our skin colour is not a fashionable thing. This is something we wear. Like for white people, they can put on a tan over because they want to look nice and golden brown in their pictures. It's a fashion statement for a lot of people that are not black.
Yeah, but when you think about it, what we're using is English language. And you may sort of feel that English, if you go back into your culture, English would not have been the language that is your indigenous sort of language. Yet it is the way that you accept the language and you use the language, and the language then becomes a tool to your advantage, and is just assimilated into your lifestyle. It becomes you. It's no longer a separate thing. It's something that is is added to you rather than subtracted from you. So I sort of think that the visuals that I sort of think are absolutely amazing, you know, or the beads and everything like that, and that can only really work when you have sort of brown skin. I just sort of think that was the most amazing way of people celebrating what they have and what is sort of quite unique. But I think it's perfectly natural that it sort of spins off, sort of, that is still a sort of celebration. It doesn't take away. I don't feel that it takes away.
I beg to differ.
I think it actually adds to.
I wouldn't say it takes away, but what my point is that with the culture appropriating, it's like they get to choose. We don't. And we don't get to choose. We're born the colour we are. And because a lot of black people are born this colour, our life experience, you know, in society hasn't always been that great because of this. Do you get what I'm trying to say? And I feel like people outside that, like you've got Kim Kardashian, there's so many I can name, Bad Barbie, all these girls that emanate black women or black culture styles in some form, way, shape or form, because they choose to. It's not their heritage and it's not their culture. We don't choose this. It's us. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Like your hair is pink today. You know,
and my hair. Look at it. What am I wearing? I'm wearing sort of like you know, this.
And how much did you pay for them jeans? Which my parents would have said.
£5.
And what's the
Trade,
real? What's the real?
wonderful place in down in Shepherd's Bush.
And what's the real fashionable cost of jeans like that these days?
This one's probably a hell of a lot, but I'm wise with my money. I'm just wise with my money. I like fashion. But I mean, this would have been, I mean, this refers back to sort of poverty. It refers back to hard-working, retreats and stuff. Yet it's been,
is poverty now a fashion? Is poverty now a fashion?
It can always be.
Graham, if you shut the door and come and take a seat.
Distressed sort of stuff.
Or the grunge, what people will call it.
Tell me about the grunge look. I missed all that. What was all that about?
Don't you think that sort of everything sort of mellows out at the edges? I just sort of think it is a natural form of continuity.
I just think there's
one
ways that
layer the things will layer on top of each other and create something else. It's actually
if that's what the point, create something else. That's not what we want. We want our culture to stay ours. We don't want other people coming and creating it and making it into something else. It is what it is already, and that's my point.
But
is that because that's what people outside tend to do, colonize our culture. And I didn't really want to use that word, but I'm going to use that word.
Mate, I like what you said there about the layers and what have you. I am at that stage in my experience brings me to that. Something you said indigenous language, right? And you said indigenous language.
Many indigenous,
You said indigenous language being English.
Yeah.
Indigenous language can never be English.
No, I didn't say that indigenous language was English. I said that English would not have been your indigenous. It would not have been your indigenous sort of language.
Oh yeah, that's what she did say. She's right.
Not that it is, but now it is your you know, it is no longer. Hello, Graham.
Hi, Freeman.
What time is this?
What time is this? It's
early
cracker jack.
Yes. What's the idea of the notion of being on time?
I would like to know that you got the notion.
Yeah, all
right. So as we said,
we're very happy to see you.
Yeah.
As we said about culture.
I'm happy to see you.
And this is a favorite subject of yours.
Cultura. La cultura.
Okay. Well, anyway, it's about cultural appropriation. Actually, we went on to poverty appropriation. It's about using something that is not ethnically yours and you're making a lot of money out of it, but the people from that ethnicity are just cast aside and taught as nothing but their culture that is being used in a commercial way. What do you think about that?
Well, I'd like to say something because I think that's I've been listening to this. It's very confusing me because there's two types of cultural appropriation, and I think that the social conservatives from whatever background can jump on a bandwagon because they are conservative.
Does everything have to be political?
Yes, everything. Yes, everything.
No, we're not talking about politics. We're talking about culture. We're not talking
I'm
about
sorry.
politics.
Please don't censor. I won't censor you. I will not censor you how you speak. I've never said anything about your accent or anything you speak. Whatever you say is what you say. What I say is what I challenge. What I say on the grounds that I say it.
Fair enough.
Don't put me down.
You're not putting me down.
Because
Continue with what you said.
Now there's a form of appropriation in general which is abusive, right? And so there was a famous tap dancer. What was his name?
Was it one or two of them?
Yeah.
Was it one or two of them?
Top hat.
Oh, Fred Astaire?
Fred Astaire. Now, he was an abusive bastard, really, because he used to go down to the sharecroppers, the ex-slave plantations, and he paid just for a few beers, right? He would actually plagiarize. He would get some elderly elderly gentleman, right?
Yeah.
Who had not much in their life, right?
Yeah.
Copy what they owned, pretend it was his, and pretend that he was unique, without without validating who it came from,
That's what I mean.
or without giving them money.
Yeah.
But there's another form of cultural appropriation which is used quite a lot, right? Which is used by social conservatives, saying that people should stay in their boxes and they shouldn't mix. And in other words, culture itself is based from on development, and very often copying is the most complementary thing that one person can do for another person. So if a white woman was to wear braids, right, rather than to tell her she shouldn't do that, actually it should be encouraged, because it's quite a compliment.
But if your social situation is that you can't get a job, they thin you from education, when you walk the street the police is always on your tail, you walk into the shop the security is on your tail, right? You go into any of the government services and they tend to ignore you, right? And what little you have in your own culture, you see somebody walking about with it with pride. Every single interaction you had and is having is designed to keep you pinned down. What did you say about your box, the social box? And from Colston, from the day of slavery, right? That process in many different ways is active. And even our own people who look like me, right, are sometimes the biggest enforcers of that. When I go to the nightclub in the West End, or any nightclub, it's mainly a black guy, right? And he won't let me in, right?
Paid to do that.
And it's still happening right now. I remember there were some young sisters a couple of years ago.
Yes.
Tell us about that situation.
There was a situation in a very famous nightclub, I think it was about 2 years ago as well, were refused because of their complexion or their size, but they were all black women. Like, one was too fat and one didn't look accordingly apparently, so they were refused entry. And I agree with what he says. It's even, you know, your own people, as a black person, you receive this from your own people. I remember during the COVID, I went to the bank and the security man at the door wouldn't let me in because I didn't have a face mask. Another man's given me a mask to come in, and he let me in because I had the face mask. And then there was another lady who was fairer skinned than me, same mixed race, biracial lady, and she was allowed to walk in with no mask.
Hey.
So, you know, this is what we would call colorism. Yeah. So, you know, I don't know if many.
I listened to Judy Love on Radio 4, and I understand.
I know if you don't know if you know this, but colorism is basically something that goes on within the black community. So the lighter your skin was, the higher up
Read
you was
the voice.
able to kind of be. Whether it was cooking in the slave master's house, and black people was left outside and kept outside, the darker skinned people. If you was the colour of the brown paper bag, you could work and do certain things because you was easier on the eye to look at. And I still think that, you know, the Willie Lynch theory, again, if people don't know, look it up, is very much at work today, even within our own community as black people. So again, a culture appropriating, like what Graham said about white women wearing braids, it should be congratulated. I don't agree with that, because me as a black woman, if I might go to some jobs and wear my hair a certain way, it's like not deemed as professional. I would have to wear my hair straight, or to look Europeanized, or to be kind of.
Are you serious?
Yes.
People do that.
Yes.
This is the thing.
Kids have been expelled from school
because of hairstyles. Yeah. These are things that are happening in today's society.
Take for instance, children go to school and they're expelled because they have braids or they have this or whatever. If the majority,
it even happened in South Africa. In Africa, right?
If you have a school here, for instance, and you have the majority,
dreadlocks is not allowed. They don't deem dreadlocks as professional looking.
Yeah, but the majority of the children going to that school are essentially brown skin or whatever. What is to stop the parents that are the majority? We will take all our children out and we will they will be outside their gate or across the road
But
or
the thing is,
whatever,
you say that-
until such time as somebody changes the rules.
You're
You
beginning
have
to
got
talk like a
This is
trade
wrong.
unionist.
You say
I
that,
think
but
we're talking
a lot of
trade
people
unions
outside
here.
the black
No,
community
no,
are not
no,
gonna
no.
kind of
Resistance.
join.
No.
You know, they think, well, it's not our problem. We're not, our kids don't wear locks to school, so it's not something that we're going to experience. So why should we get involved?
Yeah.
Obviously, the black, even, you know, dreadlocks not being deemed as a professional hairstyle. Now, dreadlocks is, again, a cultural thing to black people. A lot of white people wear it because they don't want to comb their hair or they like the look of it. But again, they have no links to the culture, what it means, where it comes from, what it is to be a Rastafarian. They don't eat how Rastafarian people eat. You know, so again, culture appropriating. You're not living the life as Rastafarian people do. You know, some of them come up there. There's different names for them because they come from different tribes. So all of these things, I don't think when white people wear locks, they take this on. It's like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna wear my hair like this because I can. And that's what it is. That's what it comes down to be fair. Even, you know, there was a time when I used to wear wigs and weaves, which I still do now. And people would say to me, oh, you're wearing a weave, you want to be European. But what people don't understand is, as a black woman to have afro hair, our hair can also look like yours. Without, you understand me, having to put weave, or I can straighten my hair to be straight. But a white woman could not make her hair into an afro. And that's the difference. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Our hair has diversity. We
Would
can
you
do diverse
ban
things.
white women from wearing?
Not ban them, but what I'm saying is, the fact
Should
that
they
you
be
like,
pushed out of society? And which society should they be? Should they
They
go
just
into
need to-
the
We're
conservative?
talking about pushed out of
Should
society.
they be going to the conservative
But
party?
Graham, talking about being pushed out of society. Look at the youths today. They have been pushed out of society,
Yes.
right? They have been told they don't belong to society. Carissa Dick says she's going to stop and search every black youth that goes to school. She's already succeeded in 75%. Imagine that interaction and that experience. And they picked on deliberately.
Did she not have to apologise for saying something so crass?
no.
Do Tories
Did you?
apologise?
Oh, tell me more
When?
what you heard about that.
No, I haven't. I haven't because half the time I don't either listen to the news or whatever. I do.
Why don't you listen to the
occasionally.
news?
Well, the reason why I don't have a TV is because
I know
I
you
had
didn't
an
have a
argument with the BBC. I don't like the way that they portray the Palestinians. They give credibility to the Israelis, but they don't give sufficient to the Palestinians.
Viva!
And we pay our license fee. And I chose not to have, because of that, I chose not to have a TV in my
Good on you, because
house.
I don't have a TV.
You know, but and that's my. Everybody has so much power to make their own choices.
It's true.
That shape things and reshape
It's true.
things.
Oh, let
But
me get
should black people,
The very
this is the
second
question,
that you
should
think
black
that
people
you're a
use
victim-
their power to
Of
change
course.
systemic laws and systems that's been put in place to keep black people down? Or should we just...
I think it's the other way around. I think from listening, it appears to me that what you should do is build up your own sense of power with each and every one of you.
May I love that
You're infinitely more power.
May I love that self-sacrifice of no TV. That reminds me of Bobby
It's no
Sands.
sacrifice. I tell you, it
It's
is a
not a
choice.
sacrifice.
It is a choice.
All right.
You
It's
make
not.
a choice
Because you-
when
I
you
know
make a
it's
choice.
TV.
Is
you make no
your
sacrifice.
tongue
It is a
right
choice.
locked to your cheek?
No,
You say-
no, Bobby Sands, right? I was on a diet a few years ago, and I wanted to
A diet?
a diet.
Yeah,
to
that's
lose,
what I thought,
to,
a diet.
to lose a couple of
You mean
pounds.
to say that you were
Ain't on the best date
you
no
were
more.
being pushed by
should
society
yum.
to be in a different shape?
No, it could
Or
have been
is it a choice?
it could be a health thing,
Oh,
right? The ideal balance and what have you.
well, it evidently was very successful. Yeah.
Oh,
go on.
thank you. All right. So Bobby Sands. So I was there trying to lose a couple of pounds by dieting, not eating. And I
Not
thought-
eating, starvation.
And I thought to myself, Bobby Sands. How many of the Irish in the H block? How many of them starved themselves to death?
Don't ask me particularly.
Well, how many?
You know,
Numbers.
I would have to go back on that because
Alright.
that's not how you sort of absorb history. You absorb history as an internal feel for something. The very accuracy of things is a different matter. You don't always have to be absolutely
All right, now I get you.
accurate.
So
You have a sense that something, you know, the dirty protest, whatever.
Now that sense,
you know,
that
was
sense,
very, very successable.
Yeah.
He should never have died. I mean, he should absolutely never die, you know, but that was sad.
Who's that?
But I think we're
the Irish
getting
thing.
away.
No.
we're getting into
The point being is this: you personally decided to protest by not having a TV license. Bobby Sands, in his position,
Yeah.
decided to protest by not eating.
No.
He starved himself to death.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
for me, losing a couple of pounds
Yeah.
was hard enough, but for a cause that great,
Yeah.
I'm thinking I could never do that. Right now, you may do it with great
That's
ease.
suicide.
Well, it's to have that kind of self-control and power and belief.
That's not power. You gave away your power by killing yourself. That's my opinion, sorry.
Isn't that what the Catholic Church says, and all the Islamic faith says, that people shouldn't kill themselves? They haven't stopped people killing themselves.
And you almost move on to
Make people kill themselves.
no, and you almost move on to the subject that I was going to talk about today. No, in fact, what happens? We have so many people who blow themselves up, and so it's a form of weaponry, it's a tactic in war, and it's used.
But it's an ideology.
Right.
They are elevated by this notion of their own sort of ideology, and that there is a huge payoff that they will go to their nirvana.
All right.
You
So
know.
so the point being.
the whole thing is you
All
know,
right. So the point being about motivation and what drives you. Purpose, right? We just left Afghanistan, and I think we haven't even checked.
No, we weren't. It wasn't a question. We just left Afghanistan. You were thrown out.
All right, okay. But the point I'm trying to make is a couple of bombs have gone off. I think 60 people got killed just last week. Probably, if we check the news.
They say 60 people, but you think about it. You go to war in a country, you let off bombs. 60 people.
You destroy a country.
But that's not a lot of people when you think about it. Imagine how much people are just in this vicinity in Finsbury Park. This is just one borough, and England's a small place. This is just one borough. If a bomb went off here, like, I'm sure it would affect more than just like 60 people.
Right, no,
You know what I'm trying to say? The numbers never add up
what I'm trying to say,
these things.
with that protest, that personal protest, with Bobby Sands, right, with people good thing enough to take that, it's happening right now. Iraq, bombs and stuff are still going off, right? Afghanistan and Syria, right? The Kurds now, the Kurds are always protesting. In fact, we've had a couple of people gone on hunger protests right in front of Finsbury Park there, and they almost do it every year. Last month they were there and they were protesting again, right? It's sort of an anniversary of something. So these things are actually happening. So you say we have an amazing amount of power. Yes, from doing a simple thing to actually doing really outrageous and crazy thing. And actually, that's brought me onto the main subject.
Which is?
What causes radicalization? Which moves into extremism, which moves into the effect of people blowing them
Lack
out.
of purpose.
Well,
Yeah, I would agree.
well, I'll tell you how I see it. Right now, as a black youth, we go back to the black situation. I can't get a job. I'm being harassed by the police. I can't get housing. The only housing I can get is in they push me in the ghetto, right? With problems, right? The security guy keeps on following me around the shop. When I go to the bank, they won't let me in, right? Okay, now.
What, with money?
Even with money. When I go to the West End, the big burly security guy, right? We were once friends. We were at school. Now say sorry, I can't come in.
Yeah.
Okay, nothing is going right for me. So I've got to protest in what kind of way? So sometimes you can't do it on your own, but there's someone out there saying, and Finsbury Park is a good example of that. That mosque out there. So the youths will come along and says, They've done this to you. They've done that to you. They've done that to you. You can't get this. I know, I feel it. I tell you how. And this is what, and here's what's funny. If we go on to the current thing about the MP that was killed on Friday, right? He was the most ideal MP, right? Working with people, being there, and some people say by being that type of person, that was the cause of his demise. But all the conversation is about radicalization, online, offline, and what have you. Now here's where I want to switch the script. The poor people who have been marginalized, the white folks who have been marginalized, and this is where this left and right comes in, joins these far, is it right?
Well, I would say that religious fundamentalists are far right from my socialist perspective.
Is it far?
And I'm sorry that the media has joined in with the hijacking of the radicalization, i.e. Joining a trade union or working for our class interests has been hijacked with the idea of some sort of medieval religious fundamentalism which preys on the desperate and is in fact anti-socialist
And look at
and anti-humanitarian.
And look at XR.
And praises homicide and suicide rather than revolution itself. If revolution could be done without a drop of blood, it would be perfect. It is the ultimate aim.
You don't think that could be done without bloodshed?
It's very difficult. No, you're leaving me in a paradox. It's very difficult to do. I don't want to be a hypocrite and condemn some of the people who have taken to violence, but I don't want to actually praise the violence as some kind of macho heroism, because really the aim of social justice, right, needs to be divorced from the aims of violence per se, because the majority of violence is done by the capitalist state. The majority of violence, right, is done by the Israeli state against Palestinians. The majority of the violence that has been done in Afghanistan, and I'm no friend of this Taliban, these medieval Taliban, I will come out of the closet as an atheist. The majority of violence has been done by the West. And it's very, very unfortunate. So we end up, right, always looking at the violence of the oppressed rather than the violence of the oppressor, because it's hidden from us.
If we go to the black experience, we go back to Malcolm X, extremist, radical, or if we go to Muhammad Ali, who refused to go to Vietnam. Do you know what they did to him when he refused to go to Vietnam?
I think he was imprisoned.
Yeah, and they took away his title.
Yes.
Right?
How long was he in prison for that?
I think about 3 years.
I didn't even know
Right?
that.
He said the Vietnamese has done nothing to me.
Yeah.
So why? Right now, so we're talking about radicalization. So, and why people, or extremism, why people are pushed into doing that. Now back to the current thing with the MP that has been killed, and back to the extreme far right. Now here's what's funny. The individuals that follow the extreme far right have
and extreme Islam.
No, let me just stick to one first. Okay, right.
Which is a far right.
All right, let me finish the point.
Religious fundamentalism is far right.
All right, let me just concentrate on that point. I hear you. They're all extremists, and right is that the problems they have. Those who go for the National Front and what have you, Britain First and what have you, they have problems in their lives. They feel marginalized. They feel they're not getting what they're supposed to get in life. Which politician is actually listening to them? They have pain. So when somebody comes along and says, I know that because of 400 years ago from slavery, those people should always be under us, it doesn't matter what, and they've taken away what is naturally yours, they'll say yes, because everybody's brainwashed, black, white, pink. So those folks now would say yes. They don't, I can't get housing, I can't get a job, right? I can't get this, I can't get that,
which is
right? And then, so somebody comes along, Enoch Power like, says yes, they've taken your jobs, right? Follow me, right? And them is what you would call extremists or radical, but they're simply, they're in a position that no one's helping them, no one's listening to them for whatever reason, right?
So they have nothing to lose.
Yeah,
right?
what a game.
So Gwen, you're right. Both sides, funny, are driven by almost the same thing. They're almost parallel. Did you know?
No, there is a difference.
Go on.
Because though we have to look at the power relations. So for instance, we've heard this story. I remember Karanjit Ahluwalia was an Asian woman who went to prison, and there was a big campaign about it. She murdered her husband. Yes, murder, killing. You know, thou shalt not kill. She murdered a terrible thing to do, right? Why didn't she walk out and things like that, and blah blah blah, and all the victim blaming that went on. But in actual fact, right, she was powerless. Her patriarchal, macho, brutal husband had been brutalizing her for a long time. So, without condemning without condoning the murder, right? It was very, very understandable, and this can be taken from a small scale to a large scale. Then the victims, right, don't always fight back in the right way, but the fault is always with the powerful and the bullies. For instance, that's where it brings me back to the universal credit cuts correlating pain. I believe it's a form of violence, in the same way as Priti Patel's brutality towards, semi-fascistic brutality towards asylum seekers. I think that a lot of pain is being caused on the poor all the time. But it's not called violence. It's called the free market, and it's accepted. The social injustice that we live with is a massive form of violence.
Do you know what annoys me today at this moment? Okay, it's still headline news and it is still strong, and it's a sad thing to have happened to that MP, and all the things I've heard is the most ideal person that you could ever want to be an MP, and I agree with that, because there's just down the road is Jeremy Corbyn. I've been a part of the political process. I've played different parts. I've been out there protesting, etc. But what annoys me at the moment is the focus on how beefing up the security of the politician. They shouldn't do this. They shouldn't do that. Nobody's actually looking at,
which they would have done anyway.
Well, yes. Well, just looking at Graham's point of view, is that people.
Well, let's have more nuclear weapons.
All right,
let's beef up. Let's have a greater, larger NATO. Let's spend more money on weapons.
All right, back to the.
Let's have more. Let's have more. A water cannon.
Yeah. Well, back to the basic thing. You say that woman.
Electric kettle prods.
That woman who murdered her husband, and so the reaction wasn't correct. It wasn't the correct one. All right. Now back to.
A jury of 12.
Okay. All right. Back to the.
You would sort of think that, the idea of a jury of 12, that whatever is presented, that you would sort of think, the first thing you would sort of think of, was that jury fairly represented? Did that jury fairly represent?
Did they all go to the same?
Were half of them women? Were like in that sense? Were half of them white and half of them black?
That I would be interested. Graham, you know the story.
Were they?
I've forgotten a lot about it. My mind is full of lots of things.
Were they all educated in the same kind of school? Did they have the same kind of background? Did they have the same kind of teacher? So therefore they would all think the same way. Black, white and pink.
But that's not supposed to be how,
But that's how it is.
I don't know whether that's true
Jury
or false.
service works.
No, that's how it is.
I actually don't know whether that is true or false.
Did you not say that the indigenous language had become English?
No,
No,
Right.
she
I
didn't.
didn't.
All right, I've read it that
Keep
way.
quoting her wrong.
I
Right,
didn't say
right.
that.
So if everybody speaks English, that means you've been educated under the English system. You've been taught to hate yourself, more or less. But back to
No.
Graham's
I
point.
do understand. It's very convoluted what you're saying, and it's quite intellect and it's quite difficult. But I can do understand.
Yeah.
You're talking about unconscious biases rather than conscious biases.
There you go. Right, so
In
back.
fact, democracy might work better than it does if it wasn't for unconscious bias and the hegemony of ideas that the ruling class has through generations dripped down.
I'm going to upgrade you to Professor Graham. Right. All right. So the point you was make. So what annoys me at the moment is how they're looking at the current situation. As you say, they're beefing it up even to the atomic bomb level. But the individuals who they have now identified as being extremists and radical, why is it that they have become extremists and radical? Now we have loads of youths who stab and shoot each other, and they all.
Because they had no support system.
Say more. Tell
Well,
us.
that he just said as
No
well.
support
They don't-
system.
Tell us more. Tell us more.
Well, it's that, I mean, I don't know, the 25-year-old who murdered the MP. It would be of value to actually
Oh, so
look
they
at,
found him already then?
that man's history.
Well, I
I mean,
read that his father
it-
was an MP in Somalia. So Somalia has been at war for 20 years. I don't know, I don't want to go down this road, but so I'm going to generalize now. Many of the people that I've met from societies who've been
I
at
thought he was
war
from Sudan.
for 20 years, Somalia.
Well, there's Somalia, right?
Maybe it's Sudan. Maybe Sudan's been at war
Well,
for a
they're-
maybe it's possible. I think
All right,
it's
he's going to give us a
Okay,
sentiment.
maybe so.
Remember what you said? It wasn't the details, it was about the sentiments. So
What,
give us a sentiment.
what I want to say
Yeah.
is I've met people from Sri Lanka,
Tamil, wasn't it? Yeah.
Angola, and
Every other
Somalia. Well, they've been as sort of mad as a box of frogs, and it's very understandable from their background. In fact, I knew a Sri Lankan man who, very interesting, although he lost the plot, it was quite difficult. When he was asked, was he a Buddhist or Tamil?
Yeah.
I suspect he was Tamil by his name. But you see, he would say something that gave an indication of where his own mental health problems came from. He would go round it and do all sorts and say that we're all together. In other words, the horrors and pain of that ethnic violence, which was fueled by the West actually, that, you know, British weapons really, those horrors, right, that had ultimately damaged him and many other people. His way of getting around it, so it gave me an insight. Now, it's very easy to talk, right, but all of us would be damaged after 16 years of war, particularly civil war, which is most painful. Now, I haven't been in that situation, so I'm talking out of my bottom in a way, because I don't know what I'd be like in that situation.
PSD.
What surprises me is the number of people who've not had mental breakdowns, not the number of people who have. When I look at the homeless on the streets, that I'm a bit closer to, I'm really not shocked by the high levels of mental health or alcoholism, or I don't even want to go into that drug addiction road. It just makes me sick think even going down the Daily Mail route. But I am very surprised when I turn the question around and say how many don't have mental health problems. Well, there's some tough cookies
All
around.
right, let me bring May in. The point you was making, May, was that these extremists. Yeah, no, you were saying about the support that they needed, that they didn't get or they wanted. It's almost
Well, there you have the better tool, really, is that if you don't want violence, you have to sort of support. I mean, everybody has, in a sense, to support all that is around them. Each person has different people as they go through the day, as they go through their life or whatever. They are in a position where they can either help or do nothing, help or do nothing, help or do nothing. You're always in a position where you can improve or you can ignore something. There are choices. Every second there are choices, and everybody has those taken. So if you sort of think that everybody is a sort of like a cult system. If, for example, that the man who murdered whatever, if right through his life, all the people who had the opportunity to influence or and appreciate or talk to him or do something or whatever, he could never have ended in the situation that has occurred. It just wouldn't happen. When you see sort of children and people take the time to listen to them and to acknowledge them. Violence would be diminished. It wouldn't be, I mean, there's all layers of different violence, but it is in a sense, I sort of think, the continuity of isolation and the continuity of not being acknowledged.
All right,
I agree with what May's saying, because I feel
it would diminish the violence.
Okay, let me just add to that. Black women and mental health. How do they handle it? How did that come about? Why there's so much? And it's more black people in the mental health. Chazz did.
Well, I'm going to touch on this because I have experience working with mental health.
Okay.
I used to work with St. Mungo's, and I think, like May says, a lot of people end up having mental breakdowns is because the support systems are either broken down or they've gone through traumatic events in their life, or more than one traumatic event in their life, or continuous traumatic events in their life, to the point where it's just there becomes a breakdown, whether it's mentally, emotionally, or literally physically. And I just feel like the way we kind of treat mental health,
microaggressions and a few major aggressions thrown into the soup,
and unconscious bias.
Yeah, a lot of things. I think it's a lot of things, and even what he was saying about a lot of black people
and
having
internalised
mental health. I feel like when you live in a country where you're being oppressed, and if you're not being oppressed, people like you are being oppressed. You're a part of a system that is not built for you, that doesn't work for you. It goes against you in many ways, shapes, and form. And microaggressions. I mean, I've been in situations where I've experienced microaggressions of racism, whether it be at work.
Could you give me some sort of example?
Okay. So, alright, I was working as a teaching assistant at a school. I was working there as an agency staff for about 3 months continuous, yeah? They liked me so much, they kept on calling me back to come back every day. So I've worked all around the school. It was a special education needs school for children. And one day they've put me in a classroom with an unfamiliar teacher that I haven't worked with before, an old white lady. And she says to me, "Oh, well, you're not going to have a break today because you're taking Jane's position." Well, I'm not Jane, but basically it was 15-minute break and a half an hour lunch was what the agency staff used to get.
Yeah.
So she tried to deny me my 15-minute break because I'm covering Jane. But bearing in mind, I ain't Jane, I'm me. So, and I'm agency staff, and like I said, I worked around the whole school in every different part.
Yeah.
I was entitled to a 15-minute and a half an hour break. Now, she tried to deny me of that. Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Because the idea of might is right, she thought that she could.
Right.
So she
And
was
then
sort of
what
putting
happened
herself
now
in
when I
identity.
challenged
Isn't that what
that?
Graham is saying?
Yeah.
When I challenged it,
Sure.
There
felt,
it is, when you challenge it,
Right,
and
when
you have
I
the capacity to
right when I
challenge it.
challenged that, it was like, you know, another lady came in, another teacher came in the room and said, "Oh no, she's part of the agency. That's fine. You can have a break as well as your half an hour."
Yeah.
So I was given that. A few
But
days
should
later,
we have to fight for that all
a few
the
days- hold
time?
on a minute, can I just finish my story?
Yeah, go on.
The story you asked for me to make a point. I'm making the point.
Oh, God.
The point was, a few days later,
slow
they
down,
called
Greg.
into the agency and complained about me. So there has it. You tried to deny me something I was entitled to, and then because I challenged that, you felt the need to complain. So that is an example that I can give you.
And from my
But
childhood,
the
I
pleasure-
remember.
the pleasure in it is that you didn't stand back. You actually held your ground.
Yeah, because I knew what I was entitled to.
Yeah, yeah.
But May,
And
why
this is
do
the
we
thing.
have to be constantly fighting
But what
against
where
the
are
stream?
your entitlements and our
I
rights?
would sort of
Why?
say
It wears
that-
you down.
That
It-
hasn't really
I
anything
wanna
to
become
do
an
with the fact that
extremist.
somebody-
I wanna have red hair like you.
That woman probably would have done it.
And we're
Well, she
Without
looked older than the furniture, to be fair. She was probably as old as old
Yeah.
as the building. You know, someone that had been working there for a very long time, and you know, just set in their ways, and
Yeah.
well, you're
Yeah.
going to do this
Yeah.
my way
Yeah.
today,
Yeah.
and this
Yeah.
is the
Yeah.
way I want it to
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
And you know, that's fine, but
And has a cat called Elizabeth.
okay.
Who
But I
cares?
just-
I don't really know the significance of the cat called
The
Elizabeth.
second.
Oh, I see. Oh, Graham. No,
Maybe
let's
the
slow
mother
down.
was the
No,
first.
don't get him on royalty, whatever you do.
Right, but you see this thing that we got to be constantly fighting. You see that archetypal kind of old English teacher. This is where, if we come back from Colston and Cecil Rhodes, right, they an unconscious bias, right, and they would unconsciously, right, propagate a certain kind of empire. Because those are the empire people, you know. How dare you?
Yeah,
How dare you?
Please,
How
sorry.
dare you?
you have no right.
Yeah.
Basically,
that
yeah.
the people that fought back against him were put in a paradox, because if they mildly accepted their subjugation, they would be good civilized people. And if they
Exactly.
fought back, they may have a chip on their shoulder.
Right.
Yes.
Well, that's
Yes,
that's
a wood
exactly
chip.
what it is. Like
A large
with,
wood
the,
chip.
with the Haitian people, it's the same thing.
As
you
big
know,
as a djembe.
The way they treat the
A
Haitian
djembe on their
people.
shoulder, a large
And the
wood chip.
reason why they treat the Haitian
No.
people like that is because, you know, Haitian people wasn't one of the countries that wanted to just lie down and be colonized, and they didn't actually lie down.
Nobody
and take
ever
the,
wants to be
yeah,
lie down
well,
and be
nobody wants to.
colonised.
But what I'm
Nobody,
saying is,
nobody.
they were known to
I wish
fight.
that was
They
true.
fought against it. So, you know, with all that what's going on now about the Haitians being, you know, left to kind of fend for themselves during their time of doom, they was meant to be given, you know, refuge in America. A lot of them, I don't know if you saw the pictures that was going around on the internet, where they was
the
just
cowboys, the
yeah,
rounding them
whipping,
and whipping.
whipping, right. So again, do you know what I'm saying?
And
This is
unfortunately, it's
this is
acceptable.
2021, and
It
these
would
things are
not be
still happening.
acceptable for a Haitian to whip a white American.
And here's the phrase with what's his name uses. It's called a whip hand.
The whip hand.
And that phrase itself is one that resonate with the certain far right, well, anyway, on that side,
Yeehaw!
right? That you lose the whip hand, and it still resonates to the thing. But mate, the funny thing, Chazz, about Haiti, right? I can talk a lot about certain aspects of Haiti, but it's about the indigenous Haiti still have a lot of their tradition and culture.
Right.
But because of what, and that's
Isn't
what,
that because
This is
of
this is what the non they
geography?
refuse to be
You see,
colonized
Haiti.
and to change their culture, their language, and all
and,
the other
and
stuff.
they've been ostracized
Yes.
from 400 years ago for their strong
their
belief and
strength,
tradition, right? And they've been kept out and kept out and kept out. But talking about beliefs and tradition,
Oh,
this
I remember it's Papa Doc.
beliefs and tradition.
All I remember is to St. Louverture.
Oh.
Beliefs and tradition, right? They have it strong. There's another place called Martyrs Island, Papua New Guinea.
Martyrs Island.
Martyrs Island, Papua New Guinea.
Okay.
Their belief and tradition, their indigenous belief and tradition is the same as Haiti, right? They call this Martyrs Island because whenever the conquerors went, they were no more heard of, right? The belief and tradition, it's strange when you said they're speaking English and not their tradition, right? From that day, right? It's been every single interaction with whoever, whatever, especially that English teacher, when it comes to education, how dare you know your place, you know? You're not supposed to be here, you're supposed to be over there, you know? And we come to this famous person in recent times, and we're going to go into royalty, who walked out in a huff and puff. How dare you challenge what I say about a black princess? You know what I'm talking about? The morning TV presenter who loves Lady Markle, right? So he goes,
Piers Morgan?
Piers Morgan, right? And he believes all the
What did Piers Morgan say? I missed that.
He said a lot of things about the new royal, the Duchess of Duke, whatever she's the Duchess of Duke. Basically, Meghan Markle, the new founded black princess. Even that situation, you know, they allowed the son, the royal grandson, to marry a biracial woman. Yeah, cool. But what did they do after that? They locked out their kids out of the lineage of their royalty. So because they've got some, you know, got black lineage, we can't have them in the royal family. So now you've got to step down from your title.
The royal family does not allow
and they're entitled to
Catholicism.
nothing. So again,
And
that
they're
was
white.
racism in your face again.
White Catholicism is not allowed in the royal family.
Now the vitriol,
White
right?
Catholicism.
From the day,
White Jewishness.
yeah, the vitriol from the day of the wedding. In fact, the vitriol from the day of the engagement, the vitriol from the day they got together, right, has never stopped, right? And the people in power, especially the media, right, actually encourages it. No one in power, they know blatantly it is wrong, but what do? They say nothing. They let the extremists continue to say what they're saying, and they don't say what you're saying is wrong. That's a person with feeling. They're entitled like anybody else.
They have the extremism. They are the capitalist media. Rupert Murdoch's media is extremism, especially now. Look at Fox News. Rupert Murdoch not only owns The Sun, owns Fox News, and is soon going to start a new GP News channel.
It's running. Yeah.
Yes. So basically. What we're hearing is we're hearing extremism.
This is the counter if we get up to that level.
The phony moderation that existed has now been thrown off and unshackled. So we're back to the 1950s. It's as if the 1960s reforms never happened. We're going to be back to the 1940s, where, to quote GB News, a spade is allowed to be called a spade again, and we have no more woke kindness and political correct justice, right? We're going to return to the 1950s abuse, where it was possible to openly abuse people who are powerless.
It's happening now. All right, back to the GB News. And so Andrew Neil, who launched the station with about 160 something million pounds, and got all professionals. They took people from there. Has left. Guess what? News update. If you don't keep up with broadcasting, he's going to be launching another station, the equivalent, right? But Andrew Neil, for me, is a reputable broadcaster. And I would have never looked at him to be in that with GB and that sort of.
You mean reputable in the terms that that the people that sell weapons are reputable, because they don't actually use the weapons, and they can claim themselves to, and they can wear suits and ties.
Just realise this is what they call soft power.
What?
Selling
what-
weapons
No,
rather
the
than
media,
using them.
media.
The
Hard,
media.
hard
Soft
power,
power. Do you
using
think that
them.
is soft power?
So the
No,
people
it's
they
not.
whip
Oh,
up,
people
so,
believe it.
so they.
Okay, alright, okay,
I would say
okay.
that that's very impact. I'm sorry to cut you. I feel like he said that he just made a comment saying that he believes the media is soft power. I disagree. I think the media is very more powerful than people seem to deem. And me and May don't have a TV. I don't know if we share the same views of why we don't have a TV. But I feel like a lot of the news, I'll be honest with you, me personally, I think a lot of it is propaganda that's being spread.
That's what-
It's not all truth. I feel like a lot of the time they are showing us images on things that they want to happen.
They're reinforcing.
They use us to reinforce this by watching it, manifesting it, talking about it, and speaking it into existence. So, like May said about us having individual power, she's very right, because we do have power, and the media and the
We're the
powers
boss.
that be, they use us and they use our power to get what they want, and to make us think that we have some power. Hey, you can vote. That's not where the power is. The power.
The power is
Every 4 years.
The power is in thinking. It's very
Yeah, critical
unfashionable.
thinking.
No,
Critical thinking, not just thinking. Critical thinking. Like, what kind of questions are you asking?
That should be sort of promoted right from tiny.
I don't believe a lot of
I'll
the stuff
show
that
you a
comes from the
trick.
news.
Show you a trick I've realised. I've been watching, actually, yesterday I watched about 3 hours of TV. Strange for the first time. I was looking at it in detail because I'm now doing the music thing. Now what I've realised with how the advertising works, there's one company, Virgin Media, right, who has an ad. What has been portrayed in the ad has got nothing to do with cable, but what it has is a very powerful emotional message, right? So they're attaching that very powerful emotional
To your
message,
emotional
right?
strings in your
Right,
individual
to that
self,
company.
individual.
So this Cambridge Analytical, right? So when
There's psychology to all this stuff. Marketing, advertising, there's psychology to it all. So, yeah, go on, I'll let you finish.
and that is exactly the point. I've realized every single ad,
Psychology.
right, I'm watching actually has music in it.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
It's been like that for a long time.
I've never realized that. I've actually,
This is how people remember. This is how people
Right.
remember. It's, all it takes is that one little catchy chorus that you keep playing over and over in your
And
head.
what I've realized, the music now has no resemblance to actually the product, right? So what he's doing, it's sparking off an emotion, right?
Yes.
And
But you can separate emotional. Like for instance,
Can we?
Yes, she's
well,
right.
Really?
I live in England, but I'm
sure?
I'm not British. But I'm not British. And there's a whole history of
attachments.
Irish history and English. But now we're all friends and all the rest of it. But
wait, you're not blowing them up anymore.
I don't know, for whatever reason, I will very happily sing God Save Our Gracious Queen and all the rest of it and whatever. I will sing it perfectly happily. But my brain will be able to...
In which key?
Graham, you're not getting on...
Can you sing soprano?
Let her finish, Graham.
Hold on with your music.
In a feminine way.
Don't worry about your music. But I will sing it perfectly happily. But I will disassociate. I will sing it because of the pleasure of the music as well, and I will, the words and whatever.
So you won't sing the words with intention?
No, I will
sing. You're just singing it to sing it.
But I won't make an issue. I will just separate it as a sort of thing itself that has its meaning and all the rest of it. But you set it aside and give it a different value, and you just like.
Is that
Do you know the words to the Irish national anthem?
All sorts of.
I'll make the tune and you can sing.
No, Graham, we have a more serious point here, which you might like.
You mean the British national anthem is serious, but the Irish one isn't.
No, listen to the
I thought
point.
it's saying, Gary.
Listen to the point.
You have to believe in self-censorship now and
Oh,
again.
all
Sometimes you have to slow
Okay, sorry.
Now listen to this point, Graham, which is interesting, right? Is it a form of survival, right? Because you're in an environment, right? And in order to survive in this environment,
You're passing.
you have to appear. So you're singing it
It's the pleasure of living. It's the pleasure of
What, to
living.
sing the Queen's Anthem?
Is it? You
Sometimes.
just told us.
No, you can do
You're not
it in
singing
a
it from your
separate-
heart.
No. I'm going to do something unserious.
Yeah.
I'm going to sing the
Every-
Irish national anthem.
every so
But it's
often.
not serious at all.
No, you don't always have to
Ugh.
be serious. You don't have
Let's
to
not be
always-
serious. Let's
You
be.
don't always have to
All right,
be
Let's
I'll
sing.
tell you-
Oya sikalele Africa. That's not serious.
All right, I'll tell you what I'm going to do now. We're going to.
Oh.
We're going to.
You just re-evaluate.
Internalized racism. This is
Oh, no, you
anti-Irish racism.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'll tell you what we're going to
You're
do.
going to wear me down.
We're gonna
Oh.
start to conclude, and Graham, you must come earlier next time.
So, well, I had to get some.
All right, very sorry. Okay, so we're going to start to conclude. May, what have you got to say for the last couple of minutes that you need to say that you didn't get to say, if you remember what you needed to say?
I sort of enjoy listening. So I'm sort of listening and talking are sort of, you know...
Pleasures in life?
They're pleasures in life.
Or do you
But-
think it's learning more than listening? Because you're listening, you're learning something
But
new,
you said,
maybe.
what I thought you said I was there the first time or the second, I think it was the first sort of thing. You said that some people listen in order to speak and some people listen in order to comprehend. That's what you said, one of
A couple of shows ago, yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
I thought I thought that made a hell of a lot of sense. So a lot of the time, I really enjoy listening.
Okay.
So I will let other people talk, and then you want to knit up something together and just sort of say something. But I absolutely enjoy listening. So often I can provoke somebody into talking, and I'm listening. It's about habits.
Well, it's,
You know, habits are enjoyable.
Okay.
yes, like all addictions.
Yeah,
Graham.
yeah.
Oh,
It's an
habits.
addiction.
All right.
Yeah.
Not from where are we?
Oya sikalele Africa. Sorry, forgotten the rest.
Alright, what is it that you need to say that you didn't say, you needed to react and you didn't react, or you've forgotten to mention?
I've just said it. And
Okay.
because I have been overstimulated by the Gaelic love of the royal national anthem, and I just have an infantile reaction to it, which is to sing Oya sikalele Africa, because I do not know the names and know the words to the Irish national anthem or any of the colonised national anthems. I don't know what else to say. There's not much.
Alright, thank you very much, Graham. Next week he will be Professor Graham. Chazz, what is it?
Really? Okay. I ain't really got much to say, but yeah, today was interesting. Talk about cultural appropriation, which went into a lot of other things as well also. But yeah, thank you for listening. I didn't even have much to say, but yeah, it was a good chat today. Thank you, Graham, for your input. And May.
And from your host with the most in any kind of course, Barron Samedi, ready for 99 Barron Samedi. If you want to find us, remember, you got to put this into the search engine. Actually, Google's my friend. The other ones, you don't come up. You have got to put in hashtag RED5599TV, and the stuff will come up. There's no gap between 5599 and TV. So from all of us here,
Adios.
Bye bye.
bye-bye.